Beautiful. And like I said, I'm Gloria. I'm part of the GetCoin team. I work with both the sponsors and the participants in order to have a great hackathon. And so I wanted just to take a moment to let you know a little bit about GetCoin and what it is that we do. Our whole mission is to build an open source internet and to economically empower the people and the builders behind it, and builders, creators, hackers, everyone. And so we often say that we would love to see people quit their day job and solely build towards public goods. And that is a belief that we hold near and true to us. One of the ways that we see people building and empowering themselves is through our bounties that can happen in hackathons. And a bounty is just like a prize that's associated with an open source issue that then people tend to submit work towards and get paid for their contributions. And so that's what's going to happen with the SpareX hackathon. They have about 10K in prizes there for their bounties, which they'll go over later. But it's been a great partnership so far. And if you haven't started working on a bounty, you still have a lot of time to start a project and submit. The hackathon is not over until I think it's like September 8th. I'd have to double check and see, but for some time. I just wanted to make sure I also let people know how they can get started. So I'm going to share my screen for a little bit so that you can see how to get started. So here, if you go to getcoin.co, you'll be able to see all of our different projects, our bounties, our hackathons, and our grants. Under the hackathon page, you're actually going to go to, let's see, I can walk you through. Under the hackathon page, you would scroll down and you can see SpareX Bridge the Gap hackathon. It's going until the 14th. There, you'll see prizes, and I'll have all the bounties listed. You can just go ahead and click on a bounty. Once you have started or looked through the bounties and the criteria, you're going to click Start Work, and that will allow you to start the project. And then when you're all done with the work that you've done, here in the same spot, it would say Submit Work, and you submit work towards that specific bounty. So, 2 weeks is a lot of time to work on a bounty. So if you haven't started, you still have a lot of time to do it. And just try to make it your best possible. We would love seeing demo links for the projects that you've created. And also don't forget to add like a preferred address for where the payout should happen. So again, the website is getcoin.co, and you can just go to the hackathon section. You will have to have a profile, and your profile is linked to GitHub. So if you do have a GitHub profile, it's an easy login from there. From that, I'm going to hand it over to the SpareX team. Let's see, to talk about their technology.
Sure. So, Joe, if you want to speak on BDLS.
Yeah, I can get started. So our project was founded in 2019. At the beginning, we focused on the consensus level of blockchain, so infrastructure, layer one. And back then, it's still in college. It's like a research project. So at that time, we look at a popular consensus protocol like Tendermint, like Polkadot, Algorand, and also at that time called Libra, now called Diem. Their hot stuff BFT consensus. And we find there are so many room to improve on, like first in terms of the performance of the blockchain and also the security of the blockchain, both of which required if a blockchain really want to be a big deal, both in finance or in any field, they want to make a big impact. So this is what we research on. We think we can come up with a better solution, both in terms of performance and in terms of the security. And this is what we have, the BDLS consensus. BDLS seems pretty confusing, which is really straightforward. Like B stands for blockchain. DLS is just the traditional cryptography protocol we make use of, which is like three different cryptographers, Dork, Lynch, and Stockmere. So blockchain DLS protocol. And we have two features. One is high performance. We have only 7 to 10 second finalization time. And you might say 7 to 10 seconds, not a big deal. Actually, it's a big deal because it's a finalization time, not block generation time. it's a key difference here. So like you have Ethereum have like 15 minutes block generation time, but you have to wait for usually at least 10 blocks to make sure like your transaction is finalized. So basically you have to times at least 10, right? But the finalization time means like how many times you need to wait until the transaction is finalized. So we only have 7 to 10 compared to other protocol, which is a big improvement in performance. Second thing is security. We are the first one in the blockchain industry to has a real secure type blockchain communication protocol in type 2 partially asynchronous network. Like previously, all the popular consensus protocol, they based on a simple, naive networking model, which is a synchronous one. And we think it's not a really good choice if you want to go to a big scale, to want to go to the institution. So we based on a more realistic model, which is the partially asynchronous one, which is quite challenging to do, but we managed to figure it out by the end. And until like 2020 June, we finished this protocol research and we published the result into IEEE 2020. And the link is here. Let me share the paper. Hold on, just take a glance and feel free to dive in if you are more interested in the details of the protocol. Yeah, this is the paper we published in 2020 IEEE. You can click here, and we also have a video recording, like a presentation. Also, it's by me, if you like my style of talking. Anyway, yeah, so this is the research side, and when we finish the research, when we think it's better to just stop at the research, we want to put it into a real project. So this is how when we start our project in real. And we get seed round funding from Outland Venture and a British blockchain VC. And also we put it into codes. Let me share the GitHub. We finish by October 2020. Basically this is our GitHub. And also this is the place, I guess you can just dive into any of our codes. The BDLS is down here. This is consensus part, and this SpareX chain is the whole our own layer 1 blockchain platform, which is based on BDLS. So this the infrastructure part, and we done by November 2020, and we launched our testnet V1 in early December. And it's a really good success. We have over 700 people download our nodes, and we don't provide any economic incentive, which is also really exciting to us. And now we are going to our second stage in our project. We focus more on the DeFi side, the application side, and Nico can share more about the details about our fantastic project building.
So when we decided what to do next, our first idea was to create a stablecoin, and that's for the simple reason that if you have a robust stablecoin that can get market adoption, you can capture like a lot of the DeFi share organically. A big concern of ours when we're deciding our stablecoin in the early days was where to launch. Although we think we have a strictly superior L1 solution, as I'll briefly explain, our stablecoin relies on a lot of DeFi primitives. So having a significant network was something of high importance. Therefore, we decided to launch on Ethereum. Specifically, we'll be launching our stablecoin on an L2 solution on Ethereum, Arbitrum, which actually just launched. And I think there are a couple of features that make our stablecoin rather exciting. So one of the main issues with most stablecoins nowadays is that they are fiat backed. That means that for them to have some form of stability, they have to rely on some off-chain reserves. And when it comes to DeFi, this can become especially problematic because they're no longer censorship resistant. They rely on trust. They rely on a centralized entity having the reserves they promise to have. And sometimes the quality of those reserves can be quite problematic, as has been a lot of controversy recently with Tether, for example. And that's why we thought that having a simple fiat-backed stablecoin would not be an ideal vehicle for a stablecoin that can meet the needs of DeFi. The other obvious solution was to go for a crypto-backed stablecoin like DAI, for instance. Although crypto-backed stablecoins can be pretty robust and safe, they operate fully on chain. They don't require any type of trust on external reserves, and they can be censorship resistant. The main issue with those coins is that they usually have to rely on a pretty high collateral ratio, and that's for the simple reason that the underlying asset that collateralizes them tends to be volatile. So relying on a pretty high collateralization to keep stability significantly limits their scalability. We expect the stablecoin market to grow massively in the next few quarters. Therefore, having a purely crypto-backed stablecoin was out of the question for us. Then the other interesting stablecoin approach is the so-called algorithmic stablecoins. Algorithmic stablecoins tend to be highly experimental. If you exclude Terra, there hasn't been a single truly successful algorithmic stablecoin, at least that has proved the test of time. And algorithmic stablecoins have a couple of issues nowadays. They're pretty hard to bootstrap. So even in the case of Terra, like UST took a while to gain adoption. Like the underlying native asset has to become pretty mature. It has to have low liquidity, and generally it takes a while for the market to trust an algorithmic design to give stability to the currency. Therefore, we thought that a good compromise between those two options was to have a hybrid stablecoin, a stablecoin that is partially collateralized explicitly by a basket of external cryptocurrencies and implicitly using our own native coin in an algorithmic manner. The interesting component of our stablecoin is the following. The composition between crypto backing and algorithmic backing is going to be dynamic and fully on-chain. Specifically, if you're on a bull market and USDS trades above the peg, then the protocol will rely much more on the algorithmic component. On the converse case, we're experiencing a bear market, the protocol will rely much more on the crypto component, on the external collateral. So we believe that dynamic switching protocol will effectively have all the robustness benefits of a crypto-backed system, as well as the scalability benefits of the algorithmic system. And the interesting thing here is that USDS growth and USDS adoption should lead to SPA value appreciation in two fundamental ways. First of all, whenever there is an expansion of the USDS supply, whenever more USDS are being minted, some SPA tokens have to be burned. So effectively, as more and more USDS tokens go into circulation, more and more SPA tokens will be burned. And we're talking about SPA tokens coming from the circulated supply. So effectively, this means that any USDS expansion will lead to a SPA supply contraction, which according to the standard economic theory of supply and demand, should lead to price appreciation for SPA. Apart from that, all the revenue generated by USDS, all the revenue generated by minting and redeeming USDS will go directly to people who stake their SPA tokens. So as USDS grow in market size, staking SPA will become much more lucrative, which we also think is a fundamental perspective of USDS driving value for SPA. So that's a brief introduction of how the protocol is going to work and how USDS links to value accrual for SPA. But there is another interesting area I want to touch on. We believe that USDS will offer a pretty unique competitive advantage relative to other stablecoins, apart from everything I have mentioned up to now. This has to do with the way the protocol is going to utilize the external collateral that supports USDS. Specifically, the protocol will take all of the collateral that is locked within the smart contract and redeploy it on external DeFi applications, effectively generating yield on that collateral. And what we're going to do is we will be directly transferring all that yield generated to USDS holders. So by holding USDS effectively will be both a medium of exchange and a store of value. Just by holding USDS, people will be able to capture all the DeFi yield generated by the underlying collateral. And to make sure that that yield is steady, we are going to smooth it out using some minimal SPA inflation. At launch, we're going to utilize Aave to generate all of that yield. That's because Aave also operates on Arbitrum, so we think there are some big complementarities there. And it's also probably one of the lowest risk DeFi yield options right now. But we're actually currently working on creating our own in-house yield aggregator, which will be able to capture a yield across multiple changes. And we believe it's going to offer much, much higher yield down the road. But yeah, to conclude, I think combining store of value as well as a medium of exchange is going to give a huge, huge competitive advantage to USDS relative to other coins. That's on top of the robustness benefit and robustness and scalability benefits of a hybrid system. And yeah, we have some cool projects down ahead. So specifically, we're going to launch a liquidity mining campaign real soon, as well as a cool suite of DeFi apps. Susu can take over and talk about what's coming next after USDS launch.
So after USDS is going to be launched, I think one way for the participants or users to get involved is through our liquidity mining events. And that's going to happen through series rounds of like the liquidity pool that we're going to be incentivizing. And then, so basically we're going to have 3 pools. First is the spot ETH pair, and then the second will be a USDS with versus like USDC pool. And then finally, we're going to have a USDS versus spot pool. And then the APY gonna be like fixed initially, but then if you stake longer with a predetermined lockup time period, you'll get higher rewards. And that's for the liquidity mining. And after that, we are also thinking of in our ecosystem, because once we have this USDS as our major currencies for exchange, we're thinking of like how we can actually, expand this ecosystem for user to actually get more involved with active investments. And that's where we are thinking of launching our own like synthetic assets, and where user can actually track the real world assets without really need to holding them. And on top of that, users are also free to actually use those synthetic assets to trade within the option contracts or like future swaps in order for them to have like more flexibilities in how they can manage the assets. And the benefits of all this derivative is that users have this more leveraged caption, as well as having this some sort of like tools in order for hedging through all these different instruments. And after that, we are also thinking of having our own like AMM, where users are more freely to like swap between different assets, and then having this more established ecosystem.
Let's see, Nicholas, are you still on the line? I was wondering if you've seen any really great projects with the current technologies that you've seen where people were really leveraging your technology for something in an interesting way.
So at the moment, we haven't launched the stablecoin yet. So the stablecoin will be live hopefully in the next month. And we are in discussion with a couple of DeFi primitives to get it adopted like early on there. So yeah, when it comes to the stablecoin, at the moment it's not live, so I can't really comment on that. When it comes to the BDLS technology, we had like a lot of independent developers working on it. But since the network is not as big yet, we haven't had a lot of traction in terms of developing dApps within our L1 solution. But hopefully that will change real soon.
Yeah. So it just sounds like that there's a lot of opportunity for people to develop and like kind of grow the network through what they're building.
Yeah, we're still pretty early on, and we're just getting industry recognition. So we expect great times to come ahead.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch a project go from like the stage where you are, and then like in a year see so much growth from that aspect of it. So I'm excited from that perspective. All right.
Thank you.
And I'm not quite sure if it was, Susu, did you just cover the ongoing research that you all are doing?
She did. So okay. Yeah, we are going to be launching the synthetic assets, which will include traditional stocks as well as derivatives like features and options within the blockchain, as well as our automated market maker and yield aggregator, which I'm actually particularly excited about the yield aggregator because it will be trying to find the best yield cross-chain. So we believe that as more and more chains evolve outside of Ethereum, having a cross-chain yield aggregator is going to give us a huge competitive advantage relative to other projects. And this is going to be built directly on USDS. So the yield aggregator we're going to launch will be linked to USDS. So USDS holders will be able to find the best possible yield within the whole blockchain for the collateral that backs the stablecoin.
That's impressive. That's pretty cool. And you can connect with the SpareX team on Twitter or Discord. They have a link to the link tree that has the best ways to connect with everybody. And with that, I don't think there's any other questions. So we'll just say thank you so much to the whole SpareX team, Nicholas, Joe, Zach, Frida, Susu, all of y'all were so helpful and so informative. Thank you so much. And we'll see you at the rest of the hackathon.